You know, they say blood is thicker than water. But sometimes I wonder if that's just something we tell ourselves to feel better about the people who are supposed to love us unconditionally. My name is Sarah, and I'm about to tell you a story that changed everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and the power of one extraordinary woman who refused to let cruelty win. It wasn't easy watching my grandmother endure what she did, but in the end, she showed us all what true strength looks like. It all started on a rainy Thursday evening in October. I remember the date so clearly because it was the day before my grandmother's 83rd birthday, and we were all gathered at my Uncle Richard's house for what was supposed to be a celebration dinner. The whole family was there, my parents, my 3 uncles, my aunts, my cousins, and of course Grandma Rose. She was sitting in her wheelchair at the head of the table, her silver hair perfectly styled despite her frail condition, wearing the pearl necklace that had belonged to her mother. Grandma Rose had been living with my Uncle Richard and his wife, Patricia, for the past 6 months after a stroke left her partially paralyzed on her left side. She needed help with basic tasks like bathing, getting dressed, and moving around, but her mind was as sharp as ever. Maybe that's what made what happened next so much more painful. The dinner had started pleasantly enough. We were sharing stories, laughing about old times, and Grandma Rose's eyes were sparkling with joy as she watched her family gathered around her. She had always been the matriarch of our family, the one who held us all together through divorces, job losses, and all the ups and downs of life. Even in her wheelchair, she commanded respect and love from everyone in the room. But then the conversation took a dark turn. My Uncle Richard had been drinking heavily, which wasn't unusual for him, but this time he seemed particularly agitated. He started complaining about the cost of Grandma Rose's medications, about how much time Patricia spent helping her with personal care, about how their social life had suffered since she moved in. "I'm just saying," Richard slurred, gesturing wildly with his wine glass. "It's not fair that we have to bear the entire burden. The rest of you get to visit for a few hours and then go home to your normal lives." The word hit the room like a physical blow. I saw Grandma Rose's face crumple for just a moment before she composed herself again. My heart broke watching her try to maintain her dignity while her own son referred to her as a burden. My Uncle Michael, Richard's younger brother, jumped in to defend him. "Richard's right, you know. We all need to step up and help out more. This situation isn't sustainable." "What situation?" my cousin Jennifer asked, her voice sharp with anger. "You're talking about our grandmother like she's some kind of inconvenience." "Well, isn't she?" Patricia suddenly spoke up, her voice cold and calculated. "Let's be honest here. She requires constant care, constant attention. She can't do anything for herself anymore. The doctor said her condition is only going to get worse." The silence that followed was deafening. I looked around the table and saw the shocked faces of my family members. Some looked embarrassed, others angry, but nobody spoke up to defend Grandma Rose. Nobody except me. "How dare you?" I said, my voice trembling with rage. "How dare you talk about her like she's not even here? This is the woman who raised most of us, who helped pay for your college education, Richard. The woman who took care of Grandpa for 15 years when he had Alzheimer's. The woman who never missed a single one of our birthday parties, graduations, or weddings." "Sarah, honey," my mother said quietly, "maybe we should discuss this privately." "No," I said, standing up. "We're not discussing this privately. We're not discussing this at all. Grandma Rose is not a burden. She's a human being who deserves love and respect." But Richard wasn't finished. The alcohol had loosened his tongue, and years of resentment came pouring out. "You don't understand, Sarah. You don't live with her. You don't have to help her to the bathroom in the middle of the night. You don't have to cut up her food because she can't hold a fork properly. You don't have to watch her struggle with words because of the stroke. And you don't have to watch your own son talk about you like you're already dead," Grandma Rose said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper, but somehow commanding the attention of everyone in the room. The words hung in the air like a curse. Richard's face flushed red, but instead of apologizing, he doubled down. "I'm just being practical, Mom. We need to think about long-term care facilities. Places where professionals can take care of you properly? You mean places where you can dump me and forget about me? Grandma Rose replied, her voice stronger now. It's not dumping, Patricia interjected. It's being realistic about what's best for everyone involved. Including you, Rose. I watched my grandmother's face as the woman she had welcomed into her family with open arms essentially told her she was no longer welcome in her own son's home. The hurt in her eyes was almost unbearable to witness. My Uncle David, who had been quiet up until this point, finally spoke up. Maybe we should all take a step back and think about this rationally. There might be options we haven't considered. Like what? Richard demanded. Are you volunteering to take her in? Because if you are, I'll have the moving truck there tomorrow morning. Richard, stop, my father said firmly. That's enough. But Richard was on a roll now, and the alcohol had made him cruel. No, I want to hear David's brilliant solution. Or maybe Sarah wants to put her money where her mouth is. You're so quick to defend her. Why don't you take care of her? I felt the eyes of everyone in the room on me. The truth was, I was 28 years old, single, and living in a small apartment. I worked long hours as a nurse at the local hospital, and I was barely making ends meet. Taking care of Grandma Rose would be a huge challenge, both financially and practically. But looking at her sitting there, her dignity intact despite the cruelty being directed at her, I knew what I had to do. Fine, I said. If that's what it takes, I'll take care of her. Sarah, no, Grandma Rose said quickly. You don't need to sacrifice your life for an old woman. You're not just an old woman, Grandma. You're the strongest person I know, and taking care of you wouldn't be a sacrifice. It would be an honor. The room erupted in chaos. My mother was crying, my father was arguing with Richard, and my cousins were taking sides. But through it all, I kept my eyes on Grandma Rose. She was looking at me with such love and gratitude that it took my breath away. That's very sweet, Sarah, Patricia said with fake sweetness. But you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. Rose needs round-the-clock care. She has medications that need to be administered at specific times. She has doctor's appointments 3 times a week. She can't be left alone for more than a few hours. I'm a nurse, I replied. I think I can handle it. On your salary? Richard laughed bitterly. Do you have any idea how much her medications cost? How much the medical equipment costs? The home modifications we've had to make? He was right, of course. I had no idea how I was going to afford to take care of Grandma Rose, but I also knew that I couldn't stand by and watch my own family treat her like she was disposable. That's when Grandma Rose did something that surprised everyone. She reached into her purse, which was hanging on the back of her wheelchair, and pulled out a sealed envelope. Richard, she said, her voice steady and calm. Would you please call Mr. Henderson? Mr. Henderson was Grandma Rose's lawyer, a man who had been handling her legal affairs for over 30 years. Richard looked confused, but pulled out his phone and dialed the number. Bob, it's Richard Turner. Yes, I know it's late, but my mother wants to speak with you. No, can't wait until tomorrow. He handed the phone to Grandma Rose, and we all watched as she spoke quietly to her lawyer. We couldn't hear what she was saying, but after a few minutes, she hung up and handed the phone back to Richard. He'll be here in 20 minutes, she announced. Mom, what's this about? My Uncle David asked. You'll see, Grandma Rose replied, and for the first time all evening, there was a small smile on her face. The next 20 minutes were the longest of my life. The family sat in uncomfortable silence, nobody knowing what to say or do. Richard kept drinking. Patricia busied herself clearing the dinner dishes, and the rest of us just waited. When Mr. Henderson arrived, he was carrying a thick briefcase and looked as confused as the rest of us. He was a tall, distinguished man in his 70s with kind eyes and a gentle demeanor. Rose, he said, taking her hand gently. You sounded urgent on the phone. Is everything all right? Hello, Bob, she replied. Thank you for coming so quickly. I need you to do something for me. She handed him the sealed envelope she had taken from her purse. This is a new will I've been working on. I need you to witness it and make it official. The room fell silent. Richard's face went white, and Patricia dropped the plate she was holding. It shattered on the kitchen floor, but nobody moved to clean it up. "Rose, Mr. Henderson said carefully. Are you sure about this? Making major changes to your will during a family gathering might not be the best idea." "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," Grandma Rose replied. "I've been thinking about this for weeks, and tonight confirmed that I'm making the right decision." Mr. Henderson opened the envelope and began reading. His eyebrows rose as he scanned the document, and he looked up at Grandma Rose with surprise. "This is quite a significant change, Rose. Are you certain this is what you want?" "Absolutely certain," she replied. "What changes?" Richard demanded, his voice shaking. "What's in that will?" Mr. Henderson looked at Grandma Rose, who nodded her permission. "Your mother is leaving her entire estate to Sarah." The silence that followed was so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. Richard's face cycled through several emotions: shock, anger, disbelief, and finally, panic. "The entire estate?" Patricia whispered. "Everything," Mr. Henderson confirmed. "The house, the investments, the life insurance policies, the antique collection, the jewelry, everything." I felt like I had been struck by lightning. Grandma Rose's estate was worth well over $2 million. The house alone was worth $800,000, and her investment portfolio was substantial. She had been very careful with her money throughout her life, and her late husband had left her well provided for. "You can't be serious," Richard said, jumping to his feet. "I'm your son. I'm the one who's been taking care of you." "Taking care of me?" Grandma Rose's voice was sharp now. "Is that what you call it? Because from where I'm sitting, it feels more like you've been tolerating me until you could figure out how to get rid of me." "Mom, that's not fair," Uncle Michael protested. "We all love you." "Do you?" she asked. "Because 15 minutes ago, you were all discussing me like I was a piece of furniture you needed to move out of the way." "We were trying to find the best solution for everyone," my mother said weakly. "The best solution for everyone except me," Grandma Rose replied. "Not one of you asked what I wanted. Not one of you considered my feelings. You just assumed I would go along with whatever you decided was most convenient for you." Mr. Henderson cleared his throat. "Rose, I have to ask, are you making this decision in response to tonight's events? Because if you are, I would recommend taking some time to think about it." "I'm not making this decision because of tonight," Grandma Rose said firmly. "I'm making this decision because of the last 6 months. Tonight just confirmed what I already knew. That Sarah is the only one who truly cares about me as a person, not just as an obligation." Richard was pacing now, his hands shaking. "This is insane. You're going to leave everything to a granddaughter instead of your own children. What about family loyalty? What about blood being thicker than water? What about it?" Grandma Rose asked. "You want to talk about family loyalty? Where was your loyalty when you were discussing putting me in a home? Where was your loyalty when you called me a burden? Where was your loyalty when you made me feel like I was a problem that needed to be solved?" "I never meant," Richard started. "Yes, you did," Grandma Rose interrupted. "You meant every word. And Patricia, you've made it very clear that you consider me an inconvenience in your home. You've never tried to hide your resentment." Patricia's face was red with anger. "I've done everything for you. I've helped you bathe. I've cooked your meals. I've driven you to your appointments. And you've resented every minute of it," Grandma Rose replied. "You've made me feel like I should be grateful for the privilege of being barely tolerated in your home." "That's not true," Patricia protested, but her voice lacked conviction. "Isn't it?" Grandma Rose asked. "When was the last time you spoke to me with kindness? When was the last time you made me feel welcome in your home? When was the last time you treated me like a human being instead of a chore?" The silence that followed was damning. Patricia couldn't answer because she knew Grandma Rose was right. "Sarah," Grandma Rose continued, "has visited me 3 times a week for the past 6 months. She's never once made me feel like a burden. She's never once complained about the time she spends with me. She brings me books. She listens to my stories. She makes me laugh. She treats me like I'm still worth something. Tears were streaming down my face. I had no idea that my visits meant so much to her. I had just been trying to make sure she didn't feel alone and forgotten. "Mom," my father said quietly, "Sarah is wonderful, but she's not your child." "We are. Doesn't that count for something?" "It should," Grandma Rose replied. "But being my child doesn't give you the right to treat me badly. It doesn't give you the right to make decisions about my life without consulting me. It doesn't give you the right to call me a burden." "I was drunk," Richard said desperately. "I didn't mean it. I was just frustrated and overwhelmed." "You were honest," Grandma Rose corrected. "Alcohol doesn't make you say things you don't mean. It just makes you say things you usually keep to yourself." Mr. Henderson had been quietly witnessing this family drama, and now he spoke up. "Rose, I need to make sure you understand the implications of this decision. You're essentially disinheriting your 4 children in favor of your granddaughter. This is likely to cause permanent damage to your family relationships." "What family relationships?" Grandma Rose asked bitterly. "The ones where I'm treated like a burden? The ones where my own children discuss putting me in a home like I'm not even there? The ones where I'm made to feel guilty for needing help?" "We could work this out," Uncle David said desperately. "We could set up a rotation. Everyone could take turns caring for you." "Now you want to work it out?" Grandma Rose asked. "Now that your inheritance is at stake? Where was this cooperative spirit an hour ago?" "That's not fair," my mother protested. "We're not just thinking about money, aren't you?" Grandma Rose challenged. "Then why didn't anyone object when Richard was talking about putting me in a home? Why didn't anyone speak up when Patricia was describing me as a burden? Why was Sarah the only one who defended me?" The truth was painful but undeniable. I had been the only one to stand up for her, and now I was being rewarded for it in a way I never could have imagined. "Grandma," I said, finding my voice for the first time since the will was mentioned, "I don't want your money. I just want to take care of you." "I know, sweetheart," she replied, reaching out to take my hand. "That's exactly why you're getting it. You're the only one who wants to take care of me without expecting anything in return." "But I do expect something in return," I said. "I expect your stories, your wisdom, your love. I expect you to teach me how to be strong like you. I expect you to be there for all the important moments in my life." More tears rolled down Grandma Rose's cheeks. "That's all I've ever wanted. To feel like I still matter to someone." "You matter to me more than you'll ever know," I said, squeezing her hand. Mr. Henderson cleared his throat again. "Rose, I need to ask one more time. Are you absolutely certain about this decision? Once I file this will, it becomes legally binding." "There's no going back." "There's no going back anyway," Grandma Rose replied. "After tonight, I can never unsee how my children really feel about me. I can never unhear the things they said. At least this way, I can make sure I'm cared for by someone who actually loves me." "This is unbelievable," Richard said, his voice breaking. "I'm your son. I've been taking care of you for 6 months. I've put my life on hold for you." "You've been housing me for 6 months," Grandma Rose corrected. "There's a difference between taking care of someone and simply keeping them alive. Sarah takes care of me. She makes me feel human." "I could do better," Richard pleaded. "Give me another chance." "You had your chance," Grandma Rose replied sadly. "You had 6 months to show me that you cared about me as a person, not just as a responsibility. Instead, you showed me that you saw me as a burden to be endured." "What about the rest of us?" Uncle Michael asked. "David and I didn't say anything wrong tonight." "No, you didn't," Grandma Rose agreed. "But you didn't say anything right either. You sat there and let Richard and Patricia talk about me like I was a piece of furniture. You didn't defend me. You didn't speak up for me. You just sat there and let it happen." "We were trying to keep the peace," my mother said weakly. "Whose peace?" Grandma Rose asked. "Mine?" "Because I can tell you, there was no peace for me in that conversation. There was only humiliation and heartbreak." Mr. Henderson had been taking notes throughout this conversation, and now he looked up. "Rose, I need to ask about specific provisions. Do you want to make any allowances for your children? Perhaps a small bequest to each of them?" "No," Grandma Rose said firmly. Nothing. They've made it clear that they see me as a burden, not a blessing. They can live with the consequences of that choice. Mom, please, my father said, his voice breaking. Don't do this. We can work things out. We can do better. It's too late for that, Grandma Rose replied. You can't take back what was said tonight. You can't take back 6 months of making me feel unwanted and unwelcome. You can't take back the fact that you were all planning to put me in a home without even asking me what I wanted. But we're family, Patricia said desperately. Family forgives. Family works things out. Family also protects each other, Grandma Rose replied. Family doesn't let anyone call their loved ones a burden. Family doesn't discuss putting their elderly members in homes like they're making a business decision. Family doesn't make their loved ones feel guilty for needing help. I watched this heartbreaking scene unfold, feeling overwhelmed by the magnitude of what was happening. My family was being torn apart, and I was somehow at the center of it all. Mr. Henderson, I said, what happens now? Now I file the will, he replied. It becomes legally binding immediately. Upon Rose's death, her entire estate will pass to you. And there's nothing we can do to challenge it? Richard asked desperately. You could try, Mr. Henderson said, but Rose is clearly of sound mind, and she's making this decision without any coercion. The will would likely stand up in court. This is insane, Patricia said, her voice shrill with anger. You're going to let family dynamics destroy a family fortune? The family dynamics were already destroyed, Grandma Rose replied calmly. I'm just making sure my money goes to someone who actually cares about me. Sarah cares about you because she knows she's getting your money, Patricia accused. Actually, I said, standing up, I didn't know anything about the will until tonight. I offered to take care of Grandma Rose before I knew about any inheritance. I offered because I love her, not because I expected anything in return. That's exactly why you're getting it, Grandma Rose said with a smile. You're the only one who offered to help without knowing what was in it for you. Mr. Henderson packed up his briefcase. Rose, I'll file this first thing tomorrow morning. Sarah, you'll need to meet with me sometime this week to discuss the details of the estate. Wait, Richard said, grabbing the lawyer's arm. What about the house? We've been living there with Mom for 6 months. We've made improvements. You've been living in Rose's house, Mr. Henderson corrected. And according to this will, it now belongs to Sarah. You'll need to make arrangements to move out. The reality of the situation was finally sinking in. Richard and Patricia had not only lost their inheritance, but they were also losing their home. They had been living in Grandma Rose's house, assuming they would inherit it someday. You can't just kick us out, Patricia said, her voice panicked. We have nowhere to go. I'm not kicking you out, Grandma Rose replied. I'm leaving my house to someone who actually wants me in it. Sarah, my mother said, turning to me with desperation in her eyes. You can't let this happen. You can't let your grandmother destroy the family like this. I'm not destroying the family, Grandma Rose said firmly. The family was destroyed the moment you all started talking about me like I was a burden to be disposed of. I'm just making sure I'm cared for by someone who values me. We value you, Uncle David protested. No, you don't, Grandma Rose replied sadly. You value what I can give you. You value the inheritance you thought you were getting. You value the free childcare I used to provide. You value the family gatherings I used to host. But you don't value me as a person. That's not true, my father said, but his voice lacked conviction. Then where were you when I was being called a burden? Grandma Rose asked. Where were you when your brother was talking about putting me in a home? Where were you when I needed someone to speak up for me? The silence that followed was deafening. They all knew she was right. They had all failed her when she needed them most. I think I should take Grandma Rose home now, I said quietly. It's been a long evening. Home? Richard asked. She lives here. Not anymore, I replied. She's coming home with me. Sarah, you live in a studio apartment, my mother protested. You can't take care of her there. Then I'll find a bigger place, I said. I'll figure it out. With what money? Patricia asked spitefully. You're a nurse. You don't make enough to support yourself, let alone take care of an elderly woman with medical needs. I'll manage, I said firmly. People have been taking care of their elderly family members for thousands of years. I'll figure it out. Actually, Mr. Henderson interjected, Rose has set up a trust fund specifically for her care. Sarah will have access to those funds to ensure Rose receives proper medical care and assistance. I looked at Grandma Rose in surprise. She had thought of everything. You planned this, I said. I've been planning this for weeks, she admitted. I've been watching how everyone treats me and I've been making notes. Tonight just confirmed what I already knew, that you're the only one who truly cares about my well-being. I can't believe you're doing this to us, Richard said, his voice breaking. I'm your son. I've been taking care of you. You've been keeping me alive, Grandma Rose corrected. Sarah makes me want to live. There's a difference. What about Christmas? My mother asked desperately. What about family gatherings? What about birthdays and holidays? What about them? Grandma Rose asked. Will you suddenly start treating me with respect and kindness? Will you suddenly stop seeing me as a burden? Will you suddenly start including me in decisions about my own life? Yes, several voices said at once. It's too late, Grandma Rose replied sadly. I can't trust you anymore. I can't trust that you won't go back to treating me badly as soon as you think I'm not paying attention. But we're family, my mother repeated. Sarah is family too, Grandma Rose pointed out, and she's the only one who's been acting like it. I helped Grandma Rose into her coat and gathered her personal belongings. The rest of the family watched in stunned silence as I prepared to wheel her out of the house she had been living in for 6 months. Wait, Richard said as we reached the door. Mom, please, don't do this. We can work things out. I'm sorry, son, Grandma Rose replied, her voice heavy with sadness. But some things can't be worked out. Some things can't be forgiven. Some things can't be taken back. I was drunk, he pleaded. I didn't mean what I said. Yes, you did, she replied. And even if you didn't, the fact that you could say those things about me, even drunk, tells me everything I need to know about how you really feel. What about Patricia? He asked desperately. She's been helping you every day. She's been giving you your medications, helping you bathe, cooking your meals, and resenting every minute of it, Grandma Rose replied. A person can't hide that kind of resentment. I felt it every day for 6 months. I never resented you, Patricia protested, but her voice was weak. You resented having to cut up my food, Grandma Rose said quietly. You resented having to help me to the bathroom. You resented having to modify your social life. You resented having to be careful about noise levels. You resented having to accommodate my wheelchair. You resented everything about having me in your home. Patricia's face crumpled because she knew it was true. She had resented all of those things, and she had never been able to hide it completely. I'm sorry, Patricia whispered. I'm so sorry. I know you are, Grandma Rose replied. But sorry doesn't change how you made me feel. Sorry doesn't give me back my dignity. Sorry doesn't take away the humiliation of being called a burden by my own family. Where will you go? Uncle David asked. Sarah's apartment is too small. We'll figure it out, I said. The important thing is that Grandma Rose will be with someone who wants her there. I want her here, Richard said desperately. I want her to stay. No, you don't, Grandma Rose replied sadly. You want the inheritance you thought you were getting. You want to look like the dutiful son who took care of his elderly mother. But you don't want me. You've made that very clear. That's not true, he protested. Then why were you discussing putting me in a home? She asked. Why were you calling me a burden? Why were you talking about me like I wasn't even there? Richard couldn't answer because he knew she was right. He had been planning to put her in a home, and he had been calling her a burden. The alcohol had just made him say out loud what he had been thinking for months. I'll change, he said desperately. I'll be better. I'll treat you better. You shouldn't have to change to treat your mother with basic human decency, Grandma Rose replied. That should come naturally. It does, he protested. Tonight was just, I was overwhelmed. I was stressed. I was drinking too much. Tonight was just the first time you were honest about how you really feel, she corrected. And now I have to live with that knowledge. As I wheeled Grandma Rose out of the house, I could hear the family arguing behind us. Voices were raised, accusations were flying, and I could tell that this was going to tear the family apart permanently. Grandma, I said as I helped her into my car, are you sure about this? Once we leave, there's no going back. There was never any going back, she replied. After tonight, I could never feel comfortable in that house again. I could never feel welcome there again. I could never trust them again. But they're your children, I said. They love you. They love the idea of me, she corrected. They love the grandmother who used to babysit their children and host family gatherings and give them money when they needed it. But they don't love the reality of me, an elderly woman who needs help and care and patience. I love the reality of you, I said. I know you do, sweetheart, she replied, tears streaming down her face. That's why you're getting everything. That's why you're the only one I trust to take care of me. As I drove away from the house, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw the family standing in the doorway, watching us leave. They looked lost and confused, like they couldn't quite believe what had just happened. Do you think they'll try to challenge the will? I asked. They might, Grandma Rose replied. But Bob Henderson is the best lawyer in town, and he's been handling my affairs for 30 years. He knows how to write a will that will stand up in court. I still can't believe you're doing this, I said. It's so much money. Money doesn't mean anything if you don't have people who love you, she replied. I'd rather live in a cardboard box with you than live in a mansion with people who see me as a burden. You'll never live in a cardboard box, I promised. I'll take care of you. I know you will, she said. That's why I'm not worried about the money. I know you'll use it to take care of me, not to take care of yourself. I'll use it to take care of both of us, I said. We're going to find a beautiful house with a garden where you can sit in the sunshine. We're going to hire a housekeeper, so you don't have to worry about cleaning. We're going to travel to all the places you've always wanted to see. That sounds wonderful, she said with a smile. But mostly, I just want to feel loved and valued. I want to feel like I matter. You matter more than you know, I said. You've always been my hero. Why? She asked. I'm just an old woman who needs help getting dressed. You're the strongest person I know, I replied. You raised 5 children mostly on your own after Grandpa got sick. You worked 2 jobs to put Uncle Richard through college. You took care of Grandpa for 15 years when he had Alzheimer's. You've been the glue that held this family together for decades. And now I'm the thing that's tearing it apart, she said sadly. No, you're not, I said firmly. Their greed is what's tearing the family apart. Their inability to treat you with respect is what's tearing the family apart. You're just protecting yourself from further hurt. I never wanted it to come to this, she said. I never wanted to have to choose between my children and my own dignity. You shouldn't have had to choose, I replied. They should have treated you better. Do you think I'm being too harsh? She asked. Do you think I should give them another chance? I think you've given them plenty of chances, I said. You've been living with Richard and Patricia for 6 months. If they were going to treat you better, they would have done it by now. You're right, she said. I just feel guilty. They're my children. And you're their mother, I replied. They should have been protecting you, not planning to get rid of you. I'm scared, she admitted. I'm scared of being alone. I'm scared of being unwanted. I'm scared of being forgotten. You're not alone, I said. You have me. You'll always have me. But what if something happens to you? She asked. What if you meet someone and get married and have children? What if you don't have time for an old woman anymore? Then I'll find a way to make time, I replied. And when I get married, my husband will understand that you're part of the package. And when I have children, they'll grow up knowing their great-grandmother and learning from her wisdom. You really mean that? She asked. I really mean that, I said. You're not getting rid of me that easily. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for standing up for me. Thank you for defending me. Thank you for making me feel like I'm worth something. You're worth everything, I replied. Don't ever forget that. We drove to my apartment in comfortable silence. I knew it was going to be challenging to take care of Grandma Rose in my small space, but I also knew that we would figure it out together. Love has a way of making the impossible possible. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. I took time off work to help Grandma Rose settle in and to start making arrangements for her care. My studio apartment was definitely too small for both of us long term, but it would work temporarily while we figured out our next steps. The first thing I did was meet with Mr. Henderson to discuss the details of the estate. The meeting was surreal. I was 28 years old and suddenly responsible for managing a multi-million-dollar inheritance. But Mr. Henderson was patient and thorough, explaining everything in detail. The house is worth about $800,000, he explained. It's fully paid off, so there's no mortgage. The investment portfolio is worth approximately $1.4 million. There's also a life insurance policy worth $500,000 and various other assets including jewelry, antiques, and collectibles. What about the trust fund for Grandma Rose's care? I asked. Rose has set aside $300,000 specifically for her medical care and daily needs, he replied. This money can only be used for her care, medications, medical equipment, home modifications, healthcare providers, things like that. And what about Richard and Patricia? I asked. What happens to them? They have 30 days to vacate the house, Mr. Henderson said. After that, the house belongs to you, and you can decide what to do with it. Can I let them stay? I asked. Mr. Henderson looked surprised. It's your house. You can do whatever you want with it. But Rose was very specific about her wishes. She doesn't want them to benefit from her estate. What if I bought them out? I suggested. What if I gave them some money to help them find a new place? Again, that's entirely up to you, he replied. But you should think carefully about it. Rose made this decision for a reason. I spent the next few days thinking about what Mr. Henderson had said. Part of me wanted to help Richard and Patricia, despite what they had done. They were still family, and I didn't want to see them homeless. But another part of me remembered the hurt in Grandma Rose's eyes when they called her a burden. Meanwhile, my phone was ringing constantly. Richard called at least 10 times a day, begging me to reconsider. Patricia called crying, claiming they had nowhere to go. My mother called trying to mediate. Even my cousins called, trying to convince me to share the inheritance. Sarah, please, Richard said during one particularly difficult phone call. I know I messed up, but I'm still your uncle. I'm still family. You can't just leave us with nothing. I'm not leaving you with nothing, I replied. You have your jobs, your savings, your other assets. You'll be fine. We've been counting on that house, he said. We've been planning our retirement around it. We've put our own money into improvements. You put money into improvements on a house that wasn't yours, I pointed out. That was your choice. It was supposed to be ours someday, he said desperately. Mom always said the house would stay in the family. It is staying in the family, I replied. I'm family. You know what I mean, he said. It was supposed to go to her children, not her grandchildren. Maybe it would have if you had treated her like a mother instead of a burden, I said. I never called her a burden, he protested. Yes, you did, I replied. You called her a burden right to her face. You talked about putting her in a home. You made her feel unwanted and unloved. I was drunk, he said for the 100th time. I didn't mean it. You meant it, I said. You just didn't mean to say it out loud. Please, Sarah, he begged. I'll do anything. I'll apologize to Mom. I'll promise to treat her better. It's too late, I said. She's already made her decision, and I'm not going to go against her wishes. What about family loyalty? He asked. What about taking care of each other? What about it? I asked. Where was your family loyalty when you were planning to put Grandma Rose in a home? Where was your loyalty when you were calling her a burden? That's different, he said. No, it's not, I replied. You want me to be loyal to you, but you weren't loyal to her. You want me to take care of you, but you weren't taking care of her. You want me to show you compassion, But you didn't show her compassion. I was taking care of her, he protested. I let her live in my house. I helped with her medical appointments. You housed her. I interrupted. You didn't take care of her. You resented her presence. You made her feel like she was imposing on you. You counted the days until you could get rid of her. That's not true, he said. But his voice lacked conviction. Yes, it is, I replied. And deep down, you know it's true. The conversation ended with Richard hanging up on me in frustration. I knew he was desperate, but I also knew that Grandma Rose was right. They had shown their true colors, and I couldn't trust them to treat her any differently in the future. A week after the dinner, I received a visit from a social worker. Someone had called the Adult Protective Services, claiming that I was taking advantage of an elderly woman and that Grandma Rose was being neglected. I'm required to investigate any reports of elder abuse, the social worker explained. I need to speak with Mrs. Turner and assess her living situation. I was furious. I knew exactly who had made that call, and it wasn't out of concern for Grandma Rose's well-being. It was a desperate attempt to get her back under their control. Of course, I said. Grandma Rose is right here. You can speak with her. The social worker, a kind woman named Mrs. Patterson, spent an hour with Grandma Rose, asking her questions about her living situation, her medical care, and her relationship with me. She also examined the apartment and reviewed Grandma Rose's medical records. Mrs. Turner, she said finally, I have to ask, do you feel safe here? Are you being cared for properly? Are you here by your own choice? I've never felt safer or more cared for in my life, Grandma Rose replied firmly. Sarah is wonderful. She treats me with respect and kindness. She makes me feel valued and loved. What about your living situation with your son? Mrs. Patterson asked. I understand you were living with him before. That's correct, Grandma Rose replied. And I was miserable. I was made to feel like a burden. I was discussed like I wasn't even there. I was planning to be put in a home against my wishes. And you're happier here? Mrs. Patterson asked. Much happier, Grandma Rose confirmed. Sarah actually wants me here. She doesn't see me as an inconvenience or a burden. She sees me as a person worth caring for. Mrs. Patterson turned to me. And you're managing her medical care appropriately? I'm a registered nurse, I replied. I'm fully qualified to manage her medications and medical needs. She has all the same doctors she had before, and she's keeping all her appointments. What about her living space? Mrs. Patterson asked. This apartment is quite small. We're in the process of finding a larger place, I explained. This is just temporary while we get everything sorted out. Mrs. Patterson made notes throughout the interview, and when she was finished, she seemed satisfied with what she had found. I see no evidence of neglect or abuse, she said. Mrs. Turner appears to be well cared for and is clearly here by her own choice. I'll file my report accordingly. After she left, Grandma Rose and I sat in comfortable silence for a while. Finally, she spoke. They called social services on you, she said. It wasn't a question. Probably, I replied. But it doesn't matter. Mrs. Patterson could see that you're being cared for properly. I'm sorry you had to go through that, she said. I'm sorry my family is making this so difficult for you. They're not making it difficult, I said. They're making it clear that they're more interested in money than in your well-being. I used to think that blood was thicker than water, she said sadly. I used to think that family would always come first. Family should come first, I replied. But you have to actually act like family. You have to actually care about each other's well-being. You're more family to me than my own children, she said. You're the only one who treats me like I matter. You do matter, I said. You matter more than you know. Over the next few weeks, we settled into a routine. I had taken extended leave from work to care for Grandma Rose, and we spent our days looking for a new house and getting to know each other even better. I learned about her childhood during the Great Depression, about her courtship with my grandfather, about the challenges of raising 5 children on a limited income. Your grandfather was the love of my life, she told me one afternoon as we sat in a nearby park. When he got sick with Alzheimer's, I promised him I would take care of him at home. I kept that promise for 15 years. That must have been incredibly difficult, I said. It was, she replied. There were days when I didn't think I could do it anymore. Days when I was exhausted and overwhelmed and scared. But I loved him, and I had promised him. Did your children help? I asked. Sometimes, she said. But they all had their own lives, their own families, their own problems. I understood that. I didn't expect them to put their lives on hold for us. But they expect you to put your life on hold for them, I pointed out. That's different, she said. I'm old. My life is almost over anyway. Your life is not over, I said firmly. You have so much wisdom to share, so many stories to tell. You have so much love to give. I used to think so, she said. But lately, I've been feeling like I'm just taking up space, like I'm just a burden everyone has to deal with. You're not a burden, I said. You're a treasure. You're a living link to our family's history. You're a source of wisdom and love and strength. Thank you for saying that, she said. Even if you don't really mean it. I mean every word, I replied. And I'm going to keep saying it until you believe it. We found the perfect house 3 weeks later. It was a beautiful ranch-style home with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a large garden. Most importantly, it was all on one level, so Grandma Rose could get around easily in her wheelchair. It's perfect, she said as we toured the house. It's exactly what I always dreamed of. Then it's yours, I said. We'll make an offer today. It's ours, she corrected. This is our home. Are you sure you want to live with me? I asked. I know I'm not the easiest person to live with. You're the easiest person I've ever lived with, she replied. You're kind and patient and loving. You make me feel like I'm worth something. You are worth something, I said. You're worth everything. We moved into the house a month later. It was strange being a homeowner at 28, but it felt right. We hired a housekeeper to help with cleaning and cooking, and we set up one of the bedrooms as a medical room with all the equipment Grandma Rose needed. The garden became Grandma Rose's favorite place. She would spend hours sitting in the sunshine, reading or just enjoying the peace and quiet. I would often join her after work and we would talk about everything and nothing. I never thought I would be this happy again, she told me one evening as we watched the sunset from the garden. I thought my life was over. I thought I was just waiting to die. Your life is far from over, I said. You have so much more to experience. I want to travel, she said suddenly. I want to see the world. I want to go to all the places I've only read about. Then we'll travel, I said. We'll go wherever you want to go. Really? She asked, her eyes lighting up. Really, I confirmed. We'll take a cruise, or we'll fly to Europe, or we'll drive cross-country. Whatever you want. I've always wanted to see the Grand Canyon, she said. And Niagara Falls, and the Golden Gate Bridge. Then that's what we'll do, I said. We'll see all of those places and more. What about your job? She asked. What about your career? I'll figure it out, I said. Maybe I'll work part-time, or maybe I'll take a leave of absence. The important thing is that we enjoy the time we have together. I don't want to hold you back, she said. I don't want to be a burden on your life. You're not a burden, I said for the 1000th time. You're a gift. You're giving me the chance to slow down and appreciate life. You're teaching me what's really important. What's really important? She asked. Love, I said. Family. Taking care of each other. Making sure the people we love know they're valued and appreciated. I'm so proud of you, she said. I'm so proud of the woman you've become. I learned from the best, I replied. 6 months after we moved into the house, I got a call from Mr. Henderson. Sarah, he said, I've received a call from Richard's lawyer. They want to contest the will. On what grounds? I asked. They're claiming that Rose was not of sound mind when she made the will, he replied. They're saying she was coerced or unduly influenced. That's ridiculous, I said. She was completely lucid when she made the decision. I know, he said, and I have documentation to prove it. But it means we'll have to go to court. What are our chances? I asked. Very good, he replied. Rose was clearly competent when she made the will. She had valid reasons for her decision. And there's no evidence of coercion or undue influence. What do I need to do? I asked. Just be prepared to testify about your relationship with Rose and the events leading up to the will, he said. I'll handle the rest. When I told Grandma Rose about the legal challenge, she was disappointed but not surprised. I knew they would try something like this, she said. They can't accept that I chose you over them. Are you worried? I asked. Not at all, she replied. I was completely sane when I made that decision. I had very good reasons for making it, and I would make the same decision again today. What if they win? I asked. They won't, she said confidently. But even if they did, it wouldn't change anything. I would still want to live here with you. I would still want you to be the one taking care of me. But you wouldn't have the money to pay for your care, I pointed out. Then we'll figure something else out, she said. I lived through the Great Depression. I know how to make do with less. You won't have to make do with less, I said. Mr. Henderson says we have a strong case. Even if we didn't, I wouldn't change my decision, she said. Money isn't everything. Love is everything. The court case was scheduled for 3 months later. In the meantime, life went on. We took that trip to the Grand Canyon, and Grandma Rose's face when she saw it for the first time was worth more than any inheritance. We visited Niagara Falls and the Golden Gate Bridge. We took a cruise through the Caribbean. We made memories that would last a lifetime. I never thought I would see these places, she said, as we stood on the deck of the cruise ship, watching dolphins play in the wake. I never thought I would have adventures like this. This is just the beginning, I said. We have so many more places to explore. I'm so grateful, she said. Not just for the travel, but for everything. For feeling valued and loved. For feeling like I still have something to contribute. You have everything to contribute, I said. Your wisdom, your experience, your love. You're the most important person in my life. And you're the most important person in mine, she replied. You saved me, Sarah. You saved me from a life of loneliness and rejection. You saved me too, I said. You taught me what really matters in life. What's that? She asked. Taking care of the people we love, I said. Being there for each other. Making sure nobody feels alone or unwanted. I'm so proud of you, she said. I'm so proud of the woman you are. I'm proud of you too, I replied. I'm proud of your strength and your courage. I'm proud of the way you stood up for yourself. I never would have been able to do it without you, she said. You gave me the courage to demand better treatment. You always had that courage, I said. You just needed someone to remind you that you deserve better. The court case finally arrived, and it was every bit as difficult as I had expected. Richard and Patricia testified that Grandma Rose had been confused and disoriented when she made the will. They claimed that I had manipulated her and taken advantage of her vulnerable state. My mother was not thinking clearly, Richard testified. She was upset about a family disagreement, and she made a rash decision that she would have regretted later. What family disagreement? Mr. Henderson asked during cross-examination. We were discussing long-term care options for my mother, Richard replied. We were trying to find the best situation for everyone involved. And what did you call your mother during this discussion? Mr. Henderson asked. I don't recall, Richard said. You don't recall calling her a burden? Mr. Henderson pressed. I may have used that word, Richard admitted. But I was frustrated and overwhelmed. So you admit that you called your elderly, disabled mother a burden? Mr. Henderson asked. I was just expressing my frustration, Richard said defensively. And you admit that you were discussing putting her in a long-term care facility without consulting her about her wishes? Mr. Henderson continued. We were exploring all options, Richard said, including options that your mother didn't want. Mr. Henderson asked. Sometimes adult children have to make difficult decisions for their parents, Richard replied. Even when those parents are mentally competent to make their own decisions? Mr. Henderson asked. My mother was not mentally competent. Based on what medical evidence? Mr. Henderson asked. Based on her irrational decision to leave everything to my niece instead of her own children, Richard replied. So you consider it irrational for a mother to leave her estate to the family member who treats her with love and respect? Mr. Henderson asked. I consider it irrational for a mother to disinherit her own children, Richard said. Even when those children have made it clear that they consider her a burden? Mr. Henderson asked. Objection, Richard's lawyer said. Asked and answered. Sustained, the judge replied. But the damage was done. Richard had admitted to calling his mother a burden and to discussing putting her in a care facility against her wishes. His claim that she was mentally incompetent was clearly motivated by his desire to inherit her money, not by any genuine concern for her well-being. When it was my turn to testify, I told the court about the dinner, about the way Grandma Rose had been treated, and about her decision to change her will. I explained that she had been completely lucid and rational when she made the decision, and that she had been planning it for weeks. She didn't make this decision in anger, I testified. She made it after careful consideration. She had been watching how everyone treated her, and she had been taking notes. She knew exactly what she was doing. And why do you think she chose to leave everything to you? Mr. Henderson asked. Because I was the only one who treated her like she mattered, I replied. I was the only one who defended her when she was being called a burden. I was the only one who offered to take care of her without knowing about any inheritance. You didn't know about the will beforehand? Mr. Henderson asked. I had no idea, I said. I offered to take care of her because I love her, not because I expected anything in return. And how has she been since moving in with you? Mr. Henderson asked. She's been happier than I've ever seen her, I replied. She's been traveling, exploring new hobbies, making new friends. She's been living life to the fullest. Does she seem mentally competent to you? Mr. Henderson asked. Absolutely, I said. She's sharp as a tack. She handles her own finances, makes her own decisions, and manages her own medical care. She's completely capable of making decisions about her own life. The most powerful testimony came from Grandma Rose herself. Despite her age and physical limitations, she was a formidable witness. She spoke clearly and confidently about her decision to change her will. I was not confused or disoriented, she testified. I was hurt and disappointed, but I was thinking very clearly. I had been planning to change my will for weeks before that dinner. Why? Mr. Henderson asked. Because I realized that my children didn't see me as a person worth caring for, she replied. They saw me as a burden to be managed. They made decisions about my life without consulting me. They talked about me like I wasn't even there. And how did that make you feel? Mr. Henderson asked. Worthless, she replied. Like I was just taking up space. Like I was a problem that needed to be solved. And how does Sarah make you feel? Mr. Henderson asked. Valued, she replied. Loved, respected. Like I still have something to contribute to the world. Do you regret your decision to change your will? Mr. Henderson asked. Not for a moment, she replied firmly. Sarah is the only one who truly cares about my well-being. She's the only one who treats me like I'm still a person worth knowing. Even if it means your children won't inherit your estate? Mr. Henderson asked. My children showed me that they were more interested in my money than in my well-being, she replied. Sarah showed me that she was more interested in my well-being than in my money. That's the difference. Richard's lawyer tried to shake her testimony, but Grandma Rose was unflappable. She answered every question with clarity and conviction, demonstrating that she was absolutely mentally competent and that her decision had been carefully considered. Mrs. Turner, the lawyer said, don't you think it's unfair to punish your children for one bad evening? It wasn't one bad evening, she replied. It was 6 months of feeling unwanted and unwelcome. It was 6 months of being treated like a burden. It was 6 months of being made to feel guilty for needing help. But they were taking care of you, the lawyer pressed. They were housing me, she corrected. They were keeping me alive. But they weren't taking care of me. They weren't making me feel valued or loved. And you think that justifies disinheriting them? The lawyer asked. I think that justifies leaving my money to someone who actually cares about me, she replied. But Sarah will benefit financially from your death, the lawyer pointed out. And my children would have benefited financially from my death too, she replied. The difference is that Sarah is benefiting from my life. She's making my remaining years meaningful and joyful. Don't you think family should come first? The lawyer asked. Sarah is family, she replied. And she's the only one who's been acting like it. The judge deliberated for 2 hours before returning with his decision. I find that Mrs. Turner was mentally competent when she made her will, he announced. Her decision was rational and based on legitimate concerns about how she was being treated by her family. There is no evidence of coercion or undue influence. The will stands as written. Richard and Patricia were devastated. They had been so certain that they would win. So certain that the judge would see their side of the story. But the evidence was overwhelming. Grandma Rose had been treated poorly, and she had made a rational decision to protect herself. I'm sorry it came to this, I said to Richard as we left the courthouse. I'm sorry the family had to be torn apart. You tore the family apart, he replied bitterly. You turned my mother against us. I didn't turn her against you, I said. You turned her against you when you called her a burden. I was drunk, he said yet again. You were honest, I replied. And now you have to live with the consequences of that honesty. This isn't over, he said. We'll appeal. You can try, I said, but you'll lose again. And you'll just be wasting more money on legal fees. I don't care about the money, he said. Yes, you do, I replied. If you didn't care about the money, you wouldn't have called your mother a burden. If you didn't care about the money, you wouldn't have discussed putting her in a home. If you didn't care about the money, you wouldn't be here today. I care about fairness, he said. Then you should be happy that Grandma Rose is being cared for by someone who loves her, I said. You should be happy that she's finally getting the respect and dignity she deserves. From a stranger, he said bitterly. From family, I corrected. From the only family member who actually treats her like family. Richard walked away without another word. I knew he would probably never speak to me again, and I was sad about that. But I also knew that I had made the right choice. Grandma Rose deserved to be cared for by someone who valued her, not someone who saw her as a burden. 2 years have passed since that terrible dinner, and Grandma Rose is thriving. She's healthier and happier than she's been in years. We've traveled to 15 countries together, and she's checked off most of the items on her bucket list. She's written her memoirs, started a garden club, and volunteers at the local library reading to children. I never thought I would have adventures like this at my age. She told me just last week as we sat on a beach in Hawaii, watching the sunset. I never thought I would feel this alive again. You're not done having adventures, I said. We still have so many places to go, so many things to do. I'm not worried about the future anymore, she said. I know that whatever happens, I'm loved and valued. I know that my life has meaning. Your life has always had meaning, I said. Some people just forgot to notice. Thank you for noticing, she said. Thank you for seeing me as a person worth caring for. Thank you for teaching me what really matters in life, I replied. What's that? She asked. Love, I said. Family. Taking care of each other. Making sure the people we love know they're valued and appreciated. I'm so proud of you, she said. I'm so proud of the woman you are. I'm proud of you too, I replied. I'm proud of your strength and your courage. I'm proud of the way you stood up for yourself. I couldn't have done it without you, she said. Yes, you could have, I replied. You're stronger than you know. Maybe, she said, but I'm glad I didn't have to find out. As I sit here telling you this story, Grandma Rose is in her room, writing in her journal. She's documenting her adventures, her thoughts, her feelings. She's creating a record of these precious years we've had together. Sometimes I think about Richard and Patricia and I wonder if they regret their choices. I wonder if they miss Grandma Rose, or if they're still bitter about losing their inheritance. I hope they've learned something from this experience, but I'm not sure they have. What I do know is that Grandma Rose made the right decision. She deserved to be cared for by someone who valued her, not someone who saw her as a burden. She deserved to spend her final years feeling loved and appreciated, not tolerated and resented. And I know that I made the right decision too. Taking care of Grandma Rose hasn't been a burden. It's been a privilege. She's taught me so much about strength, resilience, and the importance of standing up for what's right. She's shown me that family isn't just about blood relations. It's about love, respect, and caring for each other. The money? Well, the money has been nice. It's allowed us to travel and have adventures and live comfortably. But the real treasure hasn't been the inheritance. It's been the relationship. It's been the opportunity to show love and receive love in return. Sometimes people ask me if I regret giving up my old life to take care of an elderly woman. The answer is simple. I didn't give up my old life. I found my real life. I found my purpose. I found my family. And when Grandma Rose's time comes, and I pray it won't be for many years yet, I'll know that she spent her final years feeling valued and loved. I'll know that she was surrounded by people who cared about her as a person, not just as a source of inheritance. That's worth more than any amount of money. That's worth more than any inheritance. That's worth everything. So yes, they said she was just a burden at dinner that night. But they were wrong. She wasn't a burden. She was a blessing. She wasn't a problem to be solved. She was a person to be cherished. She wasn't taking up space. She was filling our lives with love and wisdom and joy. And now, as I watch her enjoy her golden years with dignity and grace, I know that we both made the right choice. We chose love over money. We chose respect over convenience. We chose family over blood relations. And we've never looked back.